Hello friends and welcome to another video. We're doing a recommendation video again today. Today is the Spookier Books rec. So if we're going on like a sliding scale of spooky, the very first video I put out, which is just called Spooky Book Recs, I will link it in the card, is like the low end, the lowest end, the like subtly spooky, just like a little spooky books. This is middle ground, like yeah, it's middle ground. I think that explains it. And then the last one, which will hopefully be up soon, is the spookiest, which are the ones that are actually spooky and actually scared some of me. And I will say that these are kind of separated by age group a little bit. Like the first video was mostly middle grade. This one's going to be a lot of YA, and then the last one a lot of adult. But I will say there is some crossover. For instance, there's a middle grade book in this video, and there's going to be technically a YA book in the next video. So, and as I mentioned in the first video, my tolerance for scary things is quite high, I think, compared to other people. At least I've been told that, and considering I started reading Stephen King at such a young age, it is probably true. So
I can reach for a well-worn book to give me an escape.
First, I want to briefly mention two classics. I almost feel like I could have put one of these. I could have put it in the first one, but just because it's a classic and you know the writing's denser as hell, I thought I would put it in this one. And so the first one is Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I feel like this could have gone in the first video. It's not super spooky, it's weird, but it is a fun read. I don't super love this one of Oscar Wilde's work, but I did enjoy it, and it is a very interesting interesting idea to build off of. So Picture of Dorian Gray. Next, Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, which actually I do really love this book. I was surprised when I first read it how much I love this book. I will say there are letters in the beginning that only are like, I think they're only like 5 pages of letters, but they are such a struggle to get through. They are so difficult. I don't know why, but they're really bad. The rest of the book though is amazing. It's so much fun. Maybe not fun is the right word for this one. It is still like pretty dense writing style and everything. But yeah, I highly recommend if you're looking for some classic spooky stuff, Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Next, we're going into more contemporary stuff. So first, I want to talk about Welcome to Night Vale by Joseph Fink and Jeffery Cranor. This is based on a podcast that they do, which I will link down below along with listing all the titles and authors of all the books I'm going to mention. So yeah, this is based on a podcast. The podcast is amazing. It's so much fun. I did think about moving this into like the spookiest category, but I do think it's more middle ground. It's very digestible. It has Lovecraft influences and also just like general, like if you read or watch or anything horror, then like a lot of the themes in Welcome to Night Vale will be familiar to you. And it's just so interesting and so well done and so funny. Yeah, this is just amazing. The voice actors who do the podcast are all amazing. All of them are great. This is a little bit different than the podcast. The podcast follows Cecil, who is a radio host, and it's like his radio show. You listen to it as if it's his show that you're like listening to on the radio. You know, when we used to do that. I did that like a few months ago. I don't know why I'm saying it like that. But yeah, it's that kind of thing, and this is more following like other stories throughout it. You do get a few snippets of Cecil, and I think Cecil, who is the character and but also the voice actor's name, I think he also narrates the audiobook for this, which is amazing. He has a great voice, great narration voice, and this was a lot of fun. This answered some questions that are brought up in the podcast but are never really like delved into, but you also don't have to listen to the podcast to read this. I would suggest it because it's a really good podcast and it's a lot of fun, but like it's not necessary. Next, we're gonna talk about something really short. It's 80 pages, I think, and that is Forest of Memory by Mary Robinette Kowal. This is weird. I don't know quite how to describe it, even like if I wanted to, it's so short. Like I'm not gonna even try to describe it to you because I don't want to spoil anything, but I will say it's real fucking weird, and I think there's some like weird animal body stuff, but my memory is not super great on it, so I would definitely suggest checking out reviews and maybe trigger warnings for this one. But I enjoyed it so much. The writing, the atmosphere, everything is just so well done in this, which is amazing because it is so short, and immediately you know what's happening. You're like, the atmosphere is just so well done. And I haven't read really anything by Mary Robinette Kowal. This was one of the first things I read by her, and possibly the only thing I've read by her, which seems ridiculous now. I'm interested in a lot of her other works, but I don't know, this one just blew me away. I'm almost like scared to read more by her, even though I know I'm going to enjoy it. I don't know if anyone else deals with that, but yeah. Forced Memory, Mary Robinette Kowal. Next, I have an anthology, and that is Toil and Trouble, 15 Tales of Witches and Witchcraft, edited by Jessica Spotswood and Tess Sharpe. This is a YA anthology, obviously, about witches. Yeah, I don't know really much more to say about this. There's no specific there's no real specific theme in this anthology besides witches, and so you get a wide range of stories, and I really enjoyed this. It was so much fun. It was so interesting. It's also very queer, which was great. I always appreciate some queer witches, which we'll get to in a second. This was a lot of fun. I'm thinking about rereading it just because I love anthologies so much, and I forget sometimes how much I love them, but this is a very good plan for some spooky witch reading. Spooky queer witch reading, too. I don't actually remember how many of these stories are queer, but I remember being surprised at how many of them were, so. Next, speaking of queer witches, we have The Lost Coast by Amy Rose Capetta. This I read this year, I'm pretty sure. First of all, I love the cover. It's beautiful. I love Amy Rose Capetta's writing. This is about a group of girls who, one girl has just moved to town and meets, they're almost like a coven, I guess. I don't remember if they use that word or not. But considering I read this book this year, I should be able to remember it better, but honestly I don't. But I do remember it takes place in Northern California. There's a lot of like redwood tree stuff happening, a lot of forest magic, and there's a lot of, I'm pretty sure there's a love triangle, and there's a lot of weird stuff in this one that I just was not expecting. It's definitely weird. Saying that, I really fucking enjoyed this book and will definitely be reading many more things by Amy Rose Capetta in the future, because queer witches, man, this is one of the really, really good ones I recommend. And if you have more queer witch recommendations, let me know. I always want more queer witches in my life, because I too am a queer witch. Next, I want to briefly mention some other stuff. So, really quickly, Horrorstor by Grady Hendrix. The reason I'm recommending this is just because it's so interesting. I think I only rated it a 3-star, which is still good. Like, I did like it, but I didn't love it. It is spooky and weird, but mostly it's just such an interesting design and concept. I really like how it's done. I feel like there could have been more to it than there is, but I did enjoy how it was done and everything. So, if you want some spooky IKEA inspired horror, then here's some spooky. Next, we're going to talk about Neil Gaiman, because I love Neil Gaiman, and I feel like he's in this kind of middle ground area. I feel like some of his stuff can be really scary, some of it is not as scary. Anyway, first we're going to talk about Good Omens by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett, both of whom are amazing writers, and this work that they did together is fucking incredible. It's amazing. It's from the early 90s, but it still holds up, and it's still just so funny and so entertaining. They both have such good senses of humor that just mesh so well together. Their writing meshes really well together. Yeah, I love this book. I've read it numerous times, and I have also now watched the adaptation that's on Amazon, I think. It's like a 6-part miniseries adaptation, and it is amazing. Neil Gaiman had a hand in it, and it is just so well done. It's amazing. I highly recommend this and the miniseries. Honestly, I might love the miniseries more at this point. I'm not sure. I can't say. It is gayer than the book, but I mean, the book's still pretty gay. More subtext, but you know, whatever. And then next, I want to talk about Neil Gaiman's short story collections. He has 2 of them. The physical one I have with me is Smoke and Mirrors, but I think Fragile Things is actually my favorite one, which I'll put up here. Yeah, it has the fairy reel in it, which is one of his poems that I really, really love. It's got those good spooky vibes. I think Fragile Things also has, like, there's a short story about the seasons, like, getting together and having, like, a conversation, and it's just so unsettling and so well done, so well written, so interesting. A lot of Gaiman's stuff is, like, unsettling, I guess, more than scary or spooky, which is kind of what I like, which is why probably I like his stuff so much. But yeah, definitely Neil Gaiman short stories if you're looking for some more short story stuff. I will also say that Neil Gaiman narrates a lot of his own audiobooks, and if you're an audiobook person or if you want to try and get into audiobooks, this might be a good place to start. He has a fantastic voice and he has such a good like cadence, like the way that he speaks and everything is just amazing. I love a good Gaiman narrated audiobook, especially when it is his own. And then finally we're going to talk about one final Neil Gaiman book, which is middle grade and maybe should have been in the first video, but honestly this book kind of terrifies me, and that is Coraline by Neil Gaiman. There's also a movie. The movie is also pretty scary for a kid's movie. Saying that, the book is scarier. I don't know what it is about this concept and everything going on with it, but this is very, very creepy. It's been like multiple years now since I read it. I need to, maybe I'll reread it soon, but it's just so, once again, unsettling. It's very unsettling, it's very creepy, but it's so well done, it's so well written. I would also recommend the movie adaptation of this. It's a lot of fun. It is less terrifying than the book, but still pretty scary. I mean, the whole buttons for eyes thing is terrifying. I'm not going to tell you anything about this if you don't know. Just go into it. Just read Coraline. It's fun. It's a good time. And those are my spookier book recommendations for you. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found some recommendations. If you did, let me know, or if you have any recommendations for me, leave them in the comments down below. I hope you're having a good day. I hope you're well and safe and everything. Life before death, Radiance.